أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن تبعه وله سلم تسليما كثيرا. أما بعد, today we are with our third lecture in this series of inviting the non-Muslims, the interfaith. We talked about da'wah as part of interfaith. Da'wah is bigger than that. So the invitation is an invitation, but interfaith not necessarily is a da'wah or an invitation. An invitation is necessarily an interfaith. You can just invite someone without having a relationship, or you can have a relationship without inviting someone. We talked about that. We talked also about the second important point, which is you do the da'wah you do the da'wah by your actions. You become a moving billboard. And we talked about the important aspect also of learning your deen before giving the da'wah. And we emphasized those 3 points. We explained them. And we talked about the way of the Qur'an, that how you invite to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to the path of Allah. So you have to invite, and you invite to something that you know, and you are inviting to the path of Allah. So you have to know the path of Allah. Your intention has to be for the sake of Allah. What are the way with the wisdom and with good advice? Means there has to be knowledge. And of course you use whatever technology, whatever means that you have. We talked about that as well. Qur'an used the place, the time, and the actual relevance when the Quran told us how the prophets of Allah give da'wah. So it used the place, always relating to the place. Look around you, where you are, and all of that. Time. Look to the people before you, work for the future, akhirah, and act now. Relevance. Shu'aib alayhi salam talked to his people about business because that's what they used to do. Salih alayhi salam talked to his people in relationship to their engineering and architecture capacity and doing all of that. Hud alayhi salam talked to his people in relation to their power and their physical strength in cultivating the land and doing all this culture around them, and so on and so forth. And our Prophet ﷺ talked to the people around him in Arabia. You are people of language, you are people of the Haram, you are people of the Kaaba, people come around you, and all of that. So it's very important for a person who's giving da'wah to have this perception. I'm going to summarize again before we talk about the new things that we talk about today. And I remember I told you to remind me of something. I cannot really remember, but I told you, Sister Maryam, to remind me next time we're talking about something. So inshallah, try to remember that from your last week's notes, if you can.
Okay.
Yeah. So we talked about the da'wah in Quran and in Sunnah, how the Prophet ﷺ used all of these aspects, the place, the time, the relevance. So when you talk to somebody, you see what is their strong point, what is their weak point, how they talk and how you talk to them. So remember that very well, sisters. So when you're giving da'wah to somebody, it's not just like I'm kind of giving them, some aspects of Islam and that's it. No, this is a study, this is science, this is knowledge. I may go to a church or a synagogue or a hospital or something like that. So what I was mentioning, that I can be going to someone and I have very valid point, and I'm talking about Islam, which I believe, I believe that it is the true religion, and I'm convinced beyond doubt that it is the true religion. But I have to do my homework. Do the people that I'm going to believe that? Of course not. Otherwise, why they invite me? So that I have to know. And I have to know what is their doubt exactly. And I have to expect what are the questions that they're going to ask me. And I have to be really well-versed in their doubts, not only about my religion. You can get a sheikh who speaks very well about Quran and Hadith, but then he goes to someone who is non-Muslim and then they address them in a certain way that throws them off. So what good do their knowledge do to them? So you have two types now. One who is ignorant about the religion of Islam. So it's easy to give da'wah to people. They're just hungry for knowledge, but you don't have it, or you have it wrong, or you're not sure of it, or you just assume that it is right. That's very detrimental. Or you have somebody who is very well versed in Islam, but he does not know how to address. How is very important too. That's why Allah said, hikmah. Al-hikmah, wisdom came before the knowledge. Maw'idha al-hasana is the good advice. Good advice means there is a content here. If you read this ayah, invite to the path of your Lord with wisdom and good admonition or good advice. Wisdom came first. Wisdom, it is not like content. Wisdom is how to deliver the content, to who you deliver the content, when you deliver the content, why you deliver the content, when to deliver this content. That is hikmah. So Allah said, hikmah first. So a person have all the mu'idha, have all the good advice, and is very good with the Muslim community as an imam or as a leader. But when they go address the non-Muslims, they don't have that. While the other side, you have somebody who is very well to communicate with the non-Muslims, but they do not have that knowledge. I hope you understand now the problem that we're talking about today. And that is my approach all the time. And in this mentorship class, I want that kind of concept to be very clear to you. Whenever you address an issue, you will always find two extremes and the middle. Always. In everything, you will find two extremes and the middle. Allah Azza wa Jal mentioned, actually, this is one of our characteristics, that ummatan wasata. وَكَذَلِكَ جَعَلْنَاكُمْ أُمَّةً وَسَطًا. And that's how we made you a middle nation. Why? You become witness in all the other nations, that they are in both extremes. One, that they have the knowledge and they went extreme in applying it, and one, that there is no knowledge at all and they went extreme on rejecting it. We're talking about the religious knowledge, the divine knowledge. So we become the middle nation that gathered between both. And that's why anybody comes in Islam and wants to be secular, this is not right, because Islam is actually not that. Secularism came to reject the rigid application of religion by some religious leaders who wanted to have authority above anybody without reason. So they say that we're supposed to be above everybody. Now it is very limited. Those who wanted to have the scientific discoveries, those who wanted to do certain things for people, the religious authority at that time said, no, you have to do what we want, otherwise you become a heretic, or you become an infidel, or you become like a non-believer. That's why this secularism came as a revolution on that. But as a Muslim, Allah Azza wa Jalla said, actually go research and go do these right things. That's why when you find a Muslim said, oh, I'm a secular Muslim, I'm not a practicing Muslim, it's either you are a Muslim or you are not a Muslim. Islam does not separate science from religion. You see? And that's why many people, when they go to the interfaith dialogue, they are not aware of that. So they look at people, bearded people or religious people, as like someone alien. Why? Because they are using the analogy of the Christian and the Jew and the other religions. They are using that analogy. If I become a practicing Muslim, it's going to limit my freedom to become a very good citizen, a very good scientist, a very good author, a very good whatever. That's in other religions, yes, I agree with you. That's what secular means. But in Islam, when did Islam tell you you are limited in all those things? Islam actually telling you to be the best in all of this, to be the best in medicine, to be the best in engineering, to be the best in guiding people, to be the best in education, to be the best in guiding people, to be the best in researching. Where is the problem? I do not see the problem. And that is what you need to have when you go give da'wah. And that is what I'm talking about. It's not enough to be in this extreme or in that extreme. As I'm telling you always, there's two extremes in the middle, any concept. So when you go to Qur'an, tafsir of the Qur'an, Let's apply that. Tafsir of the Quran. Somebody goes and apply Quran, they take the literal, very literal aspect. Literal aspects is very important. What the Prophet said, what the Sahaba said, but there is a context for it. People abandon that context and they take the literal aspect and they won't apply it now for this person. And either you apply it like that or you are a kafir. Yeah, some people did that with the Quran and the Sunnah. All 14 centuries. It's not only now. I'm not pinpointing or I mean somebody in particular. No, I'm just telling you that this has been a practice. After the fitna of Uthman radiallahu anhu, this is what started. Everything. Everybody think that this is the literal way. And those people, went out and fought both Ali and Muawiyah radiallahu anhuma, because that's what they thought and Quran means. So that's an extreme now, right? While you find also in the 14th centuries, there is another extreme who abandoned the whole thing. Said it's enough for you to become a believer in the heart. It's my heart only. Don't judge me. And this is our current thing. And I'm a Muslim. It's between me and Allah. No, it's not. It's not. If you are a Muslim, you are judged based on what you do. What's between you and Allah is between you and Allah. That's Allah will account you for in the day of judgment. But what you're doing in front of me now, you do not pray 5 times a day. And then you said, no, I'm a Muslim. No, you are not. I can tell you, do you pray 5 times a day? No, I don't. This is my freedom and blah, 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 whatever. And you cannot judge me. No, I can't judge you. I can actually tell you that if you are not praying the 5 times a day, you're a kafir. Intentionally, you're denying them. If you denying a rule of Islam, that it is known, well known, beyond doubt, and you don't have anything, that all the Muslims agree it's supposed to be done or supposed not to be done, and you denying it, you're a kafir. One word. It's very, very clear after we talk and after we discuss. But you cannot come and say, well, I don't think this is part of Islam and you cannot judge me. No, I can actually judge you. Now, based on my judgment, what should I do with you? That's another story. I'm not going to go harm you or hurt you. But there is a judgment here. Anyone who is doing 1, 2, 3, he's a Muslim, and I'm going to deal with him as a Muslim. And anyone who's not doing that is not a Muslim, and I'm going to deal with him as a non-Muslim. Now, me and other non-Muslims who have a lot of other things to do. As I always mention, there are circles. There is the circle of humanity, and then there is the circle of culture and social and relationship, like culture. You are from my culture. You are from speaking my language. You are from the same ethnicity. You are from the same family. We have a blood relationship. That is the second circle. Then you have the circle of faith and belief. You can have someone who is in all 3 circles. He's a human being, and he is from your family or culture or anything, and he's a Muslim who say La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. So alhamdulillah, we agree. We can be in this circle, we can be in that circle, we can be out in that circle, and back here, middle here, and all that. No problem. But you can have someone who's not with you in this circle of faith, but they're from your family. And that's why I have new Muslims whose family was not Muslims. So we're telling them, yeah, you cannot bring them to that faith. So you cannot judge them based on it, but they're out here. So deal with them in those 2 circles, no problem. And when you come here, you're going to come by yourself. Then you go out for them and you come by yourself. But don't let them grab you out there and don't grab them in there. But you go out at will and come like they are brothers and sisters in culture. They're Americans, they're citizens, they are very good human beings, no problem. They are not from your culture, they're not speaking your language, they are not Americans, but they are humans. And they are not sharing the faith. They have no faith or they have some faith. And they are not your relatives, and nothing gathers you in culture, but they are human beings. So they have right also upon you. And as a da'i, as a person who gives da'wah, those 3 circles have to be there. And that's why people go extreme. They don't have that vision. They don't have that vision. They want to take that circle and expand it. The Prophet himself did not do that. Allah himself says the majority of the people are not believers, but he did not tell us wage war against the majority. You see, that's why people take the ayat of the Quran out of context. Said, oh, Islam says fight and fight and fight and fight. But in Quran, Allah says, وَمَا أَكْثَرُ النَّاسِ وَلَوْ حَرَصْتَ بِمُؤْمِنِينَ. Telling Prophet Muhammad ﷺ at the end of Surah Yusuf. And by the way, for sure, verily, majority of the people are not believers, even if you want them to become believers. They are not believers by default. Okay? Yet Allah did not say to the Prophet anywhere in the Quran that go ahead and fight everybody. No, even when the Prophet said, I'm ordered to fight people, he means those people that they have an issue with. It is not like there is a reason for it. It is not like go wage war against the world, like I'm going to conquer the world. Oh world, if you don't become Muslim, I'm waging war against you. Actually, you are killing yourself if you do that. So that's actually the simple answer for anybody who said, oh, Islam came by sword. Meaning what? Bring me any text that's saying Islam tells everyone in the world, standing there and tell everybody in the world, it's either you convert or I'm going to kill you. Actually, that would be a foolish thing if somebody say that. Why? Because now the whole world will be against you. You'll be eliminated in no time. No, we say our da'wah is global. Yeah, our da'wah, invitation is global. But to force people into it, no. No, that's actually counterproductive. That's actually against the way. That's why Allah said, bil hikmah, with wisdom. And that is the tafsir of wisdom. So remember, everything has two extremes and in the middle. Whenever you see that you are seeing those who are taking overdoing it, and those who are abandoning it, you will know. Even as a mother, even as a wife, even as a daughter, even as a grandmother, even as a mother-in-law, even as a neighbor, you're going to find the two extremes. Think about it. Think about the whole world from this perspective. In everything you see or do, you will find people are two extremes in the middle. Try to be always in the middle. And don't be grabbed toward the right or the left. Always in the middle. And in the middle here, it does not mean I'm compromising my religion. No. It doesn't mean like, oh, I always hold the stick from the middle. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about your faith, convictions. Always you are balanced. That nobody's going to sway you to overdo things or abandon things. So once you abandon, you are on the left extreme. Once you overdo, you are on the right extreme and everything. So you'll find people become very apologetic about Islam. That's the left extreme. And you find people do not want to have any conversation with anybody. That's the right extreme. But I'm in the middle. I'm going to go invite people to my religion. I'm not forcing anyone, but I'm not compromising my faith because of you, to make you happy or to make you feel better. This is not going to happen. So this is very important to understand. Allah Azza wa Jal told the Prophet that you are rahmah for al-alameen. You are mercy for mankind. Mercy. So again, from hikmah, that you have to know that you are mercy. And mercy does not mean passive. Sometimes people think, be merciful, that means you become passive. How about a doctor who is doing a very, very, very intricate, very specific surgery to take something out of your body? They are merciful, but they cut you, you bleed, and you may actually die, but they become merciful for you. Nurse is merciful, doctor is merciful, the teacher is merciful when they are failing a student because they did not do their homework, right? So they are showing mercy through sometimes a certain way of correcting them. That's mercy as well. So mercy does not mean helplessness or passiveness. Mercy also means because you're compassionate to the person, you're doing what is proper for them. Right? The poet says, وَقَسَى لِيَزْدَجِرُوا, and the father became tough with his family so they can stop doing the wrong thing that they were doing. وَمَنْ يَكُ حَازِمًا, and the person who is always with resolve, فَلْيَقْسُ أَحْيَانًا عَلَى مَنْ يَرْحَمْ. He will sometimes be tough for those whom he is merciful with. So being merciful with is sometimes to take a strong standpoint. So this is rahmah, the Prophet ﷺ, rahmah lil alameen, and he is sent to everybody. So you have to know that when you are giving da'wah. And when you are giving da'wah, you know that when you're giving da'wah to Islam, you know that nobody is better than you. Can you imagine that? Because this is the job of who? Of the messengers and prophets. If you do try it though. That's why we talked in those previous 2 sessions until this point about the relevance and about how to know about Islam and how to give wisdom and you have to be merciful. We talked about all of these things, right? But don't say, oh, because nobody speaks better than me and you are not speaking good. No, you have to do all what we said so you can qualify for saying the best. So nobody can say anything better than you. Why? Because Allah Azza wa Jal said that actually in the Quran. وَمَنْ أَحْسَنُ قَوْلًا, who is better in statement, مِمَّنْ دَعَى إِلَى اللَّهِ, from the person who invites to the path of Allah, وَعَمِلَ صَالِحًا, and they do good deeds themselves, وَقَالَ إِنَّنِي مِنَ الْمُسْلِمِينَ, and stated that they are from the Muslims. So their faith is very strong, their actions is very strong, and they give da'wah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You remember those 3. Your faith and your aqidah very strong, your actions are very strong, and actions very strong means you have knowledge, that pious righteous deeds, because you have knowledge. And then you give da'wah to others, and nobody will be better than you. Also, Allah Azza wa Jal says in the Quran, في القرآن, وَلْتَكُمْ مِنْكُمْ أُمَّةٌ, and from you let there be a group or a delegation. يَدْعُونَ إِلَى الْخَيْرِ, they're always inviting to good. Surah Al-Imran. وَيَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ, enjoying whatever is good, وَيَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ, and forbid whatever is bad. وَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُفْلِحُونَ, and they're truly the successful one. So you want to be truly among the successful ones, you want nobody to be better than you, then do those things. Very strong faith, learn about your aqidah, about your faith, do all the good deeds of Islam, ibadat, worship, and fard, and sunnah, and nafil, and relationship, and all that. That means you have knowledge, powerful, strong knowledge, solid knowledge. Then you invite to the deen of Allah. And while you are inviting the deen of Allah, you are always inviting to good. You are enjoining good and forbidding bad, and you will be among the successful ones. Those 2 ayahs actually should be the main constitution of or the bylaws of the da'i, or the person propagating Islam. Strong, solid, unwavering aqidah, faith. Pious, righteous deeds that's based on knowledge. Enjoining good and forbidding bad, and inviting others to the path of Allah. Who's better than you? You are actually doing the exact job of a prophet and a messenger of Allah. Should be proud of yourself, should ask Allah for acceptance, and live your life by that code. Bi-idhnillah ta'ala, with the permission of Allah, you are among the pious and righteous in the highest degree of Jannah. This is not an easy task, but it's an amazing reward. Amazing reward do not come just simple, oh, I'm giving da'wah. No, it doesn't work like that. So remember this code I just give you now. Always remember that your job is to deliver the message, but your job is not to convert people, and we talked about that before. وَمَا عَلَى الرَّسُولِ إِلَّا الْبَلَاغُ الْمُبِينُ. Messenger. Remember the word. He's the messenger of Allah. Messenger. Messenger is just delivering the message. But this type of messenger deliver the message through their beliefs, through their action, through their good relationship with the hikmah, with the wisdom, with good advice, with knowledge, and everything. But what do the people choose? It is their part. We have to see that, subhanAllah, when you ever read the Quran, you find that every prophet came with the tongue that these people spoke, and with the problem that his people had. So in America, for example, what do the people need the most? Anybody can tell me? What do the people, American people in America, what do we as part of the Americans need most? Sisters? This is, consider this as a practical way of applying what we just said. We want to give da'wah to non-Muslims, and we understand now what da'wah is, right? the difference between interfaith dialogue and the activities and da'wah and all that. We talked about that. But I'm telling you now that I want each and every one of you to go give da'wah. Let's say an assignment. What is the first step that you want? What I'm going to give da'wah about? Just the generic part of Islam that everybody can Google and find out. What would be 1, 2, 3 issues in the American society that you can identify? So I can tell you how to plan for da'wah.
The one thing I always see is identity crisis, whether it's Muslims or non-Muslims.
Good. So write that down, please, everybody, sisters. One main issue for Americans, because this is what we live. Now, I'm not going to talk about the global or international now. Just let's identify one specific problem like this: identity crisis. Every single one, especially the new generation. I'm sure everybody agrees now. What else? Give me another one. Come on, sisters. You know lots of things. Just say it. It's either right or wrong, or valid or not valid. Just, you know.
Not knowing their purpose of their life.
Good job. So write that down too. See, always we wanted to write all the things that come to our head, and then we're gonna categorize and identify and all of that. So that is the good exercise, you know. That is brainstorming. So we said identity crisis, not knowing the purpose of that. What else? Write that, Sister Maryam, so we can read them after we finish.
Yes, I'm doing it.
Go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. This is Rahila. I think it's a lot of people that I interact with, they worry about income, rizq, where's the money, how are you going to pay the bills?
So survival and resources, like, you know, how can I survive, right? The means. They're looking for the means. They worry about the means by which they can survive. Yes?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So worrying about the means of survival as a person, as a human, as an American, as everything. And under that, you can say, how can I survive as a CEO? Or how can I survive as a human? Or how can I survive as a father? Or how can I survive as a mother? How can I survive as a single mom? How can I survive as a student? Under that, you can put all the scenarios, right? So worrying about the means of survival. What else?
Relationships, whether it's relationships with parents or relationships with your significant other, all those relationship problems.
So instead of saying family only, we're going to say that we have relationship problems, right? Challenges. All right. If let's say now that those are the 4 things that we could identify as a class now. Let's just say that, assume that. We have identity crisis. We have that ignorance of the purpose of our presence, existence. Number 3, we have a worrying about the means of survival. And then we have a relationship crisis, right? Do you think that we can merge them all under one of the above mentioned categories, or can we create a category for all of them? That's step number 2, you know, to rearrange your ideas. Anyone? Sisters, I want you to have courage. Just say it. We have lots of sisters here, but I want someone else to try to tell me that those 4 are related somehow, or we can make them 2 categories, or we keep them 4, or we merge them into one of the actual 4, or create another one that all of them can become under. Okay, 10 seconds, and then I'm going to say. Go ahead.
I think maybe it could be, some would be upon belief, and some like an internal aspect and an external aspect. Like some things are related to fitra, and some things would be, and actually all four of them can be into both. There are parts of it that are
internal and external conflict.
Yeah, internal and external beliefs or conflict, yes.
Isn't this all identity crisis?
It is. I mean, I feel like it can all be covered under, once you associate with something, your beliefs are then attached to all of these four.
Right. See, it is basically the lack of that compass, knowing who am I. If you decide who are you, then you will know the purpose of your presence and existence. Once you know the purpose of your existence and presence, you will know how to reach that purpose. So you will be worried about reaching the goal. You will not be worried about the means. Hence, your relationship with everybody else will be decided because you already have a relationship with the one who created you as a Muslim. So if we take all four and say, I know that I am a servant of Allah, I'm a human being, I'm a man, for example, I'm talking about myself, I'm a Muslim, I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a sheikh. This is my identity, so I know exactly who I am here. Now, what is the purpose of my creation? How would I know the purpose of creation? I know who created me. He's Allah. And Allah does not do anything out of a reason. That means he has a reason. What is the reason for me to worship him? How do I worship him? And it goes from there. So now I answered that second problem. And the third problem is that I worry about the means of existence. Yes, while I believe in the qadar, while I believe that my risk is already granted, it's already written, but I also believe that I don't know it. And there are ways for me as a human, as a father, as a husband, as a sheikh, as a worker, as an employer, or as an employee, how to get the money and how to survive and how to do the savings and everything. So let me take those means while believing that those means are part of the qadar. Allah created them for me for a reason. So I'm not going to say, oh, Allah already decided. Allah already decided, but he gave me the tools. He gave me the pen, he gave me the phone, he gave me this, he gave me the technology, So when somebody says, why God makes all these problems in the world, so I can solve it. So say, you wanted to be smart, so God gave you the problems so you can solve them. How am I going to be smart without problems? So everybody's focusing on the problems. Allah give us the diseases so we can be healthy. Otherwise, how would you know that we are healthy or not if there are no sickness and diseases? You see? So people are always looking at the negative while not knowing that negative is actually important to maintain the balance, the system. But this is Allah's plan though. So once I know who am I, the reason of my creation, then now I know that all those means are very important and necessary for me to go after, but I'm not supposed to be worried all the time about them. No, I have to look for them and be worried about my goal. Is this means help me with my goals or not? That's supposed to be my worry. Not my worry is like, what's going to happen tomorrow? You are working, right? Work. And pray to Allah Azza Jal for this work to continue and do your best. But believe that if anything bad happens, okay, I'm going to pray to Allah to bring me out of it and I'll do my best. But I'm not going to be worried about that because what is going to happen is going to happen. Finally, if you know who you are, you have the purpose, you always choose the right means and depend on Allah Azza wa Jal and making dua for Allah for them to work those means, then you know your relationship. Who are you? Oh, I am someone who believes like you. Say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah Rasulullah. Alhamdulillah, now we have something in common. Who are you? I'm your father. I'm your mother. Well, my religion told me how to deal. Who are you? I'm your co-worker. I'm your classmate. Are you a believer? No, I'm not a believer. Then, I have a right. You have a right upon me as a co-worker. That's it. You have a right upon me as a neighbor. You have a right upon me as a human being. I'm a doctor. And you come to me, I'm not going to, let what you do wrong comes in the way of me treating you as a doctor to a patient. Even if we are in a state of war, and a casualty from the enemy comes, you have to You have to treat them. You have to treat them. Yeah, and take them captive later on or release them back. This is another issue. But I'm talking about when they are in front of you. You're not going to say, oh, let them like that. No, you have to treat them and then judge them after that. So being a professional, sometimes it surpasses, what is the person's belief or agreement or disagreement with you. So once you identify the problems of the society, then I just give you the drill now. I give you the application now. Now I decided who am I toward those problems. Now you're going to have a good presentation when you go give to the people, because you solved it for yourself. You may not be able to apply it on a larger scale of the society because those are problems, but at least you theoretically found out from your religion how you solve these problems on an individual level, on my family level. Then let me give da'wah to others. So whenever I go give da'wah to others, I told them the solution for the problems in America, all of it comes from the identity. You have to decide who you are. And to decide who you are, you have to have solid criteria. The criteria cannot change. You want to identify, you want to define the word identity. So there have to be a solid criteria to define something. If the criteria there is no criteria, then you cannot define. You can say, who's a doctor? If I ask you, who's a doctor? Who can answer me? Like, define a doctor for me. Who's a doctor? I'm talking about medical doctor. Yeah. Who's a doctor to you? Like when you go and say, this is a doctor. Anyone? Sometimes you make me feel that there is nobody in the class.
The person who's
Alaikum.
yeah,
Alaikum salam.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
Go ahead,
Can I
sister.
go?
The person who is.
Okay, so a doctor is someone who is trained to assist in the well-being of a person, maybe.
Okay, so this is, for me, whenever I go look for a doctor, I see somebody who introduced himself as a doctor, right? That is number one. And then I have to know that he's a medical doctor. So I go read his biography. I graduated from this and this and that and that. All of this, would all of this be enough? Like if somebody go and introduce himself as a doctor, did I ask him, what is your criteria?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
No, I don't.
Mm-hmm.
But he's certified. There is a rule, there is a law in the United States of America, for example, saying you cannot introduce yourself as a doctor except if you pass the board exam, if you fulfill this courses of College of Medicine, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So now, whenever anybody present themselves as a doctor, yeah, there is a chance that he is a imposter. But most of the time, 99% of the time, I know that America guarantees me that nobody will present themselves as a doctor and have an office and have a team, except if they are actually a doctor. So my government, they guaranteed for me that this is a doctor. My government guaranteed for me that everybody driving on the freeway had a license, that they know the rules. Yes? That my government guaranteed for me that when I enter a court, there is a certain criteria. Otherwise, imagine you stand in front of a judge whose criteria of justice I do not know. So the judge today said, justice is according to what I say. Would you stand with your case in front of a judge like that?
No,
Why?
because he would have personal bias.
Exactly, right? So my relationship with him, because he has a criteria. Now, personally, like when he is not a judge anymore and he's driving in the street, Do I accept that he can drive on his own, under his own desires? Or are you expecting everybody who drives in the street with you to drive with the same rules? Same rules, yeah? All right, he becomes your neighbor and he defined the criteria of neighborhood. Would you accept that? That every day he's gonna come with a new criteria? You wouldn't accept that, right? So it comes down to what? At the end, your very personal things, yeah? The very personal things. You can do whatever you want. But to come up with those personal things and try to impose them in the society, and you said, you have to accept my criteria of no criteria in defining myself. You see what's happening now? You see what's happening now? That actually the whole issue is no issue. I am coming at you and telling you the only thing I have freedom with is my personality. Do you have a problem with that? You'll say no. I said, okay, I can identify myself the way I like, as long as I'm in my house. Okay. Can you say anything to me? I can do whatever I want in my house. I can dress the way I like. I can think whatever I'm like. I can address myself in the mirror whoever I like. Okay? But the minute you come out of your house, you don't have that freedom. You have to have a criteria the minute you interact with others. Otherwise, if everybody can define their own criteria on the go, then we are in the jungle now. Yeah? So, yeah, like you come and somebody said, you cannot define for me who is a man or who's a woman. That's the identity problem that we're having right now. Okay. So you have the right to identify who's a man and a woman. Yeah? And I have the right to disagree with you. Correct? Yes or no?
Yes.
But is this the case going on now? Is it what is going now?
No.
Happening now? I have the right to define myself and you do not have the right to disagree with me. Isn't that what is happening?
Yes.
Well, I have a right to disagree with you and you do not have a right also to disagree with my disagreement with you. Is this actually human? Is this actually reasonable? This is not reasonable. You see, logic is very important. That's why it's not going to go anywhere. A society will destroy itself from inside when it goes to that path. Actually, it is very good to have a criteria, whether some people like it or not. You have to have a criteria. You have to have a criteria. Once you have to have another human being on your line, you have to have a criteria. You have your own intimate space, right? And then you have your personal space. Then you have your social space. Then you have your community space. You know, if you go Google, you will find those circles of spaces. That's why they call social distance. When we had COVID, they did not say community distance, and they did not say personal distance. And we talked about that. Your intimate is the one that you allow people to become you. To become you. That's why Allah Azza wa Jalla said about the husband and wife, they are your garments and you are theirs. That's the intimate circle. So they are close to you as your own skin. That's intimacy right there, right? You allow someone and only one person becomes in that intimate circle at all times, husband, wife. That's it. And then, I'm talking about what is the default. Yani. People allow other things, but intimacy is like that. Now, personal is your parents and your close friends, the ones who hug you, the one who kiss you, the one who shake your hand. That's your personal space now. That's why I said you are invading my personal space. When somebody like coming in your circle, within your reach, that's your personal space. But social distance, if you put your hands beside you or in front of you, that is your social distance. And that's why they said you have to have social distance, because once you step in, it is your personal distance now. So that is the periphery of it, and you go from there. So you have to have a criteria. Even for intimacy, you have to have a criteria. You allowed someone to come into your intimate circle. Why? Why? What for? There's a criteria. Otherwise, if they are going to define and you're going to define this based on your own desire every day, nobody can define intimacy for me, then we're going to have a problem. And nobody can they define social for me, then they will have a problem. Nobody can define gender for me, they will have a problem. So who am I then? He said, you are whoever you think you are. All right. So I am whoever I think I am, and I'm not going to tell you. So how are you going to deal with me now? Now, sisters, if I tell you, you cannot define me, and I am free to define whoever I am. But I'm not going to tell you. If you're asking me who you are, I'm not going to tell you. So how are you going to deal with me? You're going to assume something. What we see in front of you, you're going to have a criteria. So this is actually a big mess. This identity problem. So that's why you solve it yourself, and don't go deeper like I just went now, but have it on that level for yourself. So when you go and you say, you know what, Islam says it's very basic and very simple. Islam is very basic and very simple. I am a human being. A human being, it's either a male or a female in general, unless there is a medical identification for the hermaphrodite and all of these kind of things. I'm not going to get there. But, and the relationship for reproduction is male and female and all of that. And that's what it is. Very simple. How are you going to deal with someone who's like that? Okay, there is a criteria. We'll deal with them on a societal, what citizenship is, what is this, what is that, and we will deal based on this. Based on this. So that's what it's going to be. So whenever you're giving da'wah to others, you have to identify the problems around you, and then you have to study it on your own level. You have to have answers for yourself, and then you go present it outside. The next step is, what if your presentation is challenged? Then you have to come up with a list. And this comes from coaching. I went to da'wah more than you. I went to da'wah for 26 years. So I kind of saw it all. So I can tell you, okay, those are the questions that normally Christians come with. Those are the questions that atheists come with. Those are the questions that, agnostics came with. Those are the questions like that. And there is actually people who work on these kind of lists that you can put red, orange, yellow, and green. Green, any Muslim can talk about, easy. What are the 5 pillars of faith? What are those things? Islam, respects the parents, all of these kind of things. This is the green. And this majority of Islam would be on that green circle, by the way. But it doesn't mean you don't seek knowledge. You have to have knowledge for it. But I'm talking about that you can achieve that easily to present. Now, yellow, it has some controversy about it. And orange, you have to have scholarship to talk about it. And red, you have to have a specific skill to handle that. And that comes on the issues of jihad and the issues of, all the doubts came about Islam, about the Islam and the Trinity, about Islam and the essence of God, about the philosophical things, the logical things, and on that level. So there's red for majority of the Muslims to speak about to everyone, and those are the normally certain people only bring those issues. Orange issues. Why Prophet Muhammad when he was like 50 plus, he married a girl who's 9 years old. Yeah, that's a question that orange. It needs a scholarship to speak about. And it's easy, you can tell them, is this only something that the Prophet ﷺ did out of a vacuum, or this was a traditional culture? It actually, until now, I'm not talking about what is practiced and what is not. There is a law in the state of Maine that the minimum age of marriage is 12 years old for a girl. So a girl can actually get married when she's 12 years old with the consent of parents. So if she wants to get married, and it does not give an age for the male who's going to marry her. That's in the United States in the 21st century, by the way. So, you know, like that piece of information, many people did not know. When I faced them with it, they Googled it, they were shocked themselves. So sometimes the answer, that's hikmah, right? The answer actually, I'm not promoting here. So don't get me wrong. I'm saying that, okay, I have a 12-year-old daughter. I'm not going to marry her before she's 20. I'm not going to do that. But I'm telling you just to answer your doubt. So I'm putting a context for your issue. Yeah. And if this is in the 21st century, this is what's happening. What was there in the last century? Girls used to be married when they were 9 years old on this very land of the United States of America. What are you going to do then? So basically, 100 years ago, that was not an issue that anybody brought, that Muhammad ﷺ married Aisha. That was never brought in the books, history books. Yeah. It was not there. You see the approach now of da'wah? That's why I said it's orange. Like you need scholarship to speak about something. So sometimes the answer comes from the person who actually raised this challenge. They have the answer in his book, in his term, by his criteria, by his means, but he's not aware of it. So my job as a scholar is to show him from his own standards. Those are your standards in the West. You know, queens and kings, they used to be there once they reach puberty. The issue of age was not there. Once they reach puberty, she's able to get married, she gets married. That's exactly what Islam said. Once you reach puberty, you're an adult. And then number two is your ability to handle marriage, physically and socially and all of that. It's not like everybody who's 9 or 10 can get married. No, some people are 20 and the judge will say they are not ready to get married. That was 1400 years ago as well. It's called safih. Safih means a person cannot handle money on their own. And Allah spoke about it in the Qur'an, but people are not aware, you see? So that's why when a doubt comes to you like that, I put it in an orange category. That means not everybody can go and handle and answer. Just give you an example. Jihad, what is jihad? People killing, this and that, terrorists. What about suicide bombing? What about this? What about that? Those are orange things. Yellow, it's controversial, but I can tell you, avoid this and go with that. Easy, simple. So you go on the go. So your da'wah, as sisters now, your da'wah will be always in the green and yellow. But we have to identify those categories. On the green and yellow, you're going to go between those. And the yellow, you're going to come to someone like me, and I tell you, okay, how to make the yellow green for yourself. Avoid this and avoid that. You go and say, by the way, this is a controversial issue in Islam. And according to the madhab or the school or my coach or my mentor, or what we studied is such and such is preferred. But there's another opinion about it. No? Why some Muslims doing this? Why others doing that? What is the difference between Hanafi and Maliki and Shafi'i? That's yellow, you know. So we can talk about that. I hope we understand these issues here. There are a couple of things left. I'm going to wrap up. Using stories of the people before. Quran, 1/3 of Quran is talking about the stories of the people before. Using stories is something beautiful. Sometimes you use a story. Why do you use a story before you talk to someone about something important? Who can tell me? Why would you use a story in the beginning?
To get their attention, to help them relate to the story. Maybe they find a character that they relate to, just to create that wonder, you know.
Very good. So basically, stories get people attention, and at the same time make them unite with the story somehow, right? It happened to them, it happened before them, they can relate to it, there is a meaning, there is a moral in it. And normally people have zero resistance to stories. Once you say, once upon a time, you know, it's like someone did such and such, people come like helpless. They want to know to the end, you know? You know, I'm in Alexandria right now, in Egypt. Do you want to know the story why I came to Alexandria?
Yes.
You see, now everybody wants to know, right? Now the lesson, the class, everything is somewhere else now. You want to know, oh, yes, Sheikh, tell me, please. And then, you know, I start telling you, but then I'm going to put it in the context of da'wah, right? Because we're talking about da'wah. Now it's going to become very, very useful. You know, I traveled here because, you know, attending a conference about the da'wah. It's not the case, by the way, but I'm just telling you, traveling here to attend the conference of the da'wah, and after I finished the da'wah, they brought us here to have some fun and some nice things, da 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 da. Now, I put da'wah in a very beautiful context of vacation for you. So basically, da'wah means something sweet, something nice. You see where I go with this now? Yes. So stories like that before, stories like that. Why we love the story of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Because we see the suffering, we see the struggle, and then we see when we went to Medina and you Battle of Badr, and then, you know, the Prophet did this and the Prophet did that, and he said that, and he smiled. You feel so good that you want to actually do something for that religion. Yeah. So that is basically the power of stories. So I advise people all the time, whenever you give da'wah, try to say an anecdote or a story when you start your speech and see the magic happening. All right? So learn this with your family even. Start implementing stories and everything that important that you want to address somebody with. You know, like if your husband coming from work and said, man, if you know what happened this morning, you know what? You are not going to feel that you are preparing the table, putting the lunch, eating and all of that, because you are waiting to know what happened to him, you know? Or, you know, when you come back and they say, man, you can't imagine what Sheikh Mamdouh did today in the class. So your husband will be doing something, or you are asking them to do something, and they will be doing it. Why? Because they want to know the story. So that is the power of stories, you know? Like, you know, the kids, they love stories before they sleep. Why? Because it makes them feel relaxed. It makes them feel good. It makes them feel safe. And when you are saying the story, they are like, you know, with you, close to you, and you are, you know, talking about something. You say, yeah, and all of that. You see that they are helpless. Like they are out of their challenging mode, rebellion and everything, and they are listening to you. SubhanAllah, that grows with us until we die. That's why Quran implemented stories. So remember stories. Remember also about the miracle aspect of the Quran, talking about the unseen. I told you about the time machine concept last time. So use that as well. Say Quran is an amazing book that talks about the past, the present, and the future in the same ayah, in the same verse, in the same context, uniting the time, you know, for us. Because God is the same everywhere, all the time, past, present, future, everything. He is God above all of that. So all of this for us, as long as I have a solid belief and an unchanging criteria, I'm fine. It does not matter where I go or where I find myself doing. Da'wah also, you have to know that da'wah is to enlighten people about Islam, and you are serving your religion. You are not the religion, but you are serving the religion and educating people about it. Always remember that. You are just educating people. I am educating as many people as I can about the beauty of Islam. That's it. They accept it, they don't accept it. They challenge, they don't challenge. Sometimes you only give the da'wah, and whenever somebody raises doubts, say, you know, this is not my qualification. So why you are here today? Because I'm a good presenter. That's it. You know, I'm a good presenter. I just present. Not everybody is like responsible. You know, marketing in any company, it is not sales. Marketing is different from sales, right? And it's different from accounting. Each one has a role, but at the end, the company is responsible for the product. Okay, so basically, when you are in marketing, you are not supposed to be like, oh, I am the one who is in the production line. No, I'm just doing the marketing. I'm a good marketer for my company. Now you have an issue with that. I can go back and ask production, and I can ask sales, and I can ask accounting, and I can ask administration, and I come back to you, right? So that's also very, very important. And you will be challenged. So this is a very good way to handle that. Always admit, or always make sure that you draw the frame around you. That's who I am. I'm not the scholar. So when I go there, I present myself as a scholar. Ask me any questions you want. That is how much, that's where I am. I'm not bragging now, but I'm just telling you, 26 years ago, I was not like that. 10 years ago, I was not like that either. but I was more than what I was 26 years ago. And I am more now than what I was 10 years ago. And inshallah, I'm working to be more than that. So I go to any gathering and I tell them, ask me any questions you want about Islam. Go ahead. You see? So that is how it is. Because basically I'm making my list, I'm editing my list. Rarely there is a question that I was not asked at least 4 or 5 times before. Rarely. So what am I working on now is just modifying my answers based on new things that's happening. That's what I'm doing. So I'm educating myself all the time. I'm reading about those 70, 80 questions. All the questions of the modern life about Islam will come down to about 70, 75 questions. All of them. There will be hundreds of questions, yes, but they will all come under one of about 50 to 70. I mean, 50, if you condense them hard, that would be like 50 questions that every single thing will come from. So once I study that, I go there and I know exactly one of those is going to be asked. It's going to come different ways, different fashion, but it's the same concept at the end of the day. So I work on them based on the new current things that's happening politically, economically, socially, religiously, humanly, everything that's coming. And that's what we learn. So remember that when you are reading in the Quran, you are reading about the style. There is a style, there is a criteria, there are standards, but strategies can be different, plan can be different, tools can be different, but it is the same thing. Prophet ﷺ invite people. I can invite people now over, Zoom. I'm talking to you now while you are thousands of miles away, but yeah, it's happening. So the same concept, same criteria, same material, same standard, but we're using it different. I can use a PowerPoint, can send you a text message. We can do lots of other things to deliver the message. Okay, interacting with people, same thing with a social gathering. We go here, we go there. There are different things. Yeah, and you have to understand also, as I said, the people in front of you, are they enemies? Are they challenging, in the challenging mood? Are they peaceful? They're in education mode? What kind of mood they are in? And then you decide based on that. And you see how the Quran in Mecca and Medina was like this. Also, when you're inviting somebody who agrees with you on one thing, is different from somebody who disagrees with you in everything. Somebody who denies God, don't get engaged in other things, because now their job is just, so somebody who does not believe in God at all. And then they come and tell you why you are wearing hijab, or why the women have to pray behind men and all that kind of things. So now you have to understand one thing, why they are asking you that question. They're asking you that question to create doubt about what you believe in. But they don't have faith, actually. They do not believe there is something called God. So how I'm going to interpret for you that I'm doing it for God while you don't believe there is God? And if I just tell you I'm doing it for God, then they're going to say, why are you doing that? Because they are really not believing in God. I said, you don't believe in God. So basically, any of the things I do will not make any sense to you, whatever I say. Correct? So let's talk about God then. Let's talk about there is God or there is no God. That is the only thing I'm going to talk to an atheist about when it comes to religion. Is there a creator or not? We cannot pass to the next step until we identify this one first. That's why an agnostic feels that there is a God, but I don't know who he is. So at least they know that there is a creator behind all of this. There is a intelligent design. Okay, so we agree on one point now, so I go to the next point, but I'm not going to go beyond it either. Now, when a Jew or a Christian comes, that's a completely different story now, because they believe there is a God, they believe there is a revelation, they believe there is a prophet, they believe there is a day of judgment, but the issues that we differ is after that. So I'm not going to go beyond that either, but now we achieved a lot. You see where it goes? This is the hikmah in giving. So that's why some people go engage with atheists and they keep coming to me. I said, forget it. I do not have time for this. Either tell the atheists, go talk to my scholar, or don't talk to them. Because They have one thing in their mind, to make you an atheist, to make you have doubts about your religion. And you are fighting to make them religious. By answering them about your salah and about why you're fasting and all of that, you're wasting your time. You do waste your time, you know that. Because, you know, their goal is to keep you running like this until you get frustrated. But already they made their mind, there is no God. So what is salah and siyam and fasting, and Quran said this, and about the miracles of Quran, look at the Quran, discover that. They don't actually believe that this book came from a God. They don't believe there is a God, and you are convincing them about the miracles of Quran? Come on, you know? So knowing the person in front of you saves you lots of hardship. Also, this is the last thing I wanted to mention, statistics. It is a very important tool of our time now. Go to Pew Center, go to the ISPU, go to the statistics in the United States. Try to understand how many messages in the United States. How you give da'wah if you don't know how many messages in the United States, approximately? How many Islamic schools? How many weekend schools? How many Muslims go to weekend school? What is the survey results for Muslims? There is a survey. If you go to ISPU now, there is a survey that they made in Chicago Muslims. And I wish that they can make someone in Texas like that. They tell you who is a Muslim in Chicago, how many Muslims, how they identify, how the youth think about their Islam, like who identifies a Muslim, what is a Muslim, and what is the role of women in election and politics and all of that. This is, in my opinion, personal opinion, it is a must for anybody who wanted to give da'wah or who wanted to even teach Muslims. They have to know the statistics of the society that they live in. If you don't know statistics, you know nothing. You do not know how to deal with things. You're going to speak irrelevant all the time. You are not going to have priorities, what you speak about. And that's unfortunately what is happening in our Islamic centers, in our masjids, with our imams, with the people. They don't know. If you are a doctor or you are an accountant or anything like that, you always on top of the latest statistics about your profession. But when you're a Muslim, you don't care. We just speak about whatever. Know the statistics. You have teenage children. You need to know everything about teenagers in the United States. Everything. How they think and what is the challenges and what are people doing, what are the papers written. You don't have to make a PhD. You can find those things. You have a son or a daughter about to get married. You have to know the statistics about marriage and why people get divorced and all of that. So educate them. You're about to do business, you have to study. You're about to go to Hajj, you have to collect the materials and get trained. Don't say, oh, I have a sheikh with me. What if the sheikh dies? What if the sheikh doesn't make it? And you are in your ihram already. You don't know what you're going to do next. So those are the things I wanted to mention about da'wah for the non-Muslims in the style of the Quran. I hope I kind of give you like a satellite image. Yani. All those 3 lectures we'll talked about as a satellite image. I'd really appreciate it if we can do a follow-up session maybe next week, and we have a question and answer. So please go and do your, write your questions about that and tell me exactly the things that we can, from all the 3 lectures that you have issues with. I remember I gave you homework last time or something like that. I don't know what it is, but no, I leave that up to you, inshallah. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. Jazakallah.
Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Okay.